Am I the asshole for blowing up at a nurse for telling me that my daughter wasn't my daughter? So me and my partner adopted our daughter 2 years ago. We don't have any biological children, and we don't really plan to just yet. Our daughter is 6 years old now. She does understand that she's adopted, and we've made it clear time and time again that even though she didn't come from my belly, we still love her and treat her as if she did. The other day, I took her to a pediatrician because she said that one of her ears felt full. She did have a cold last week, so that was expected, and he said that her ear would drain out eventually. All good. The nurse comes in with the discharge sheet, and commented that she would have never assumed that I was the mother of my daughter since I looked nothing like her, which I don't, for obvious reasons. So then I said, "Oh yeah, we adopted her, so that's why she doesn't look me or my husband." Then, this nurse goes, "Oh okay, so she isn't your daughter." I was a little confused because I thought I had just explained this whole situation. I said again, "She is my daughter, we adopted her a few years back." The nurse says, "But technically she isn't your daughter, and her real mom is somewhere else." I was really upset because what the actual fuck? I said again, "But she is my daughter and I am her mom." The nurse kind of sighed and said, "Okay, maybe legally you are. But her real mom is the one that gave birth to her." My daughter was looking up at me kind of confused, and I can't even imagine what was going through her head. I had enough. I said to this nurse, "What the hell is wrong with you? I keep telling you that I am her mother, and you keep denying that, in front of my daughter no less." The nurse goes, "I'm just stating a fact. Biologically she's not yours." I went again, "Yeah. Because she's adopted. We adopted her and gave her a home. What, I have to push her out my vagina to be her mother?" The nurse goes, "Well, that's the dictionary definition of what a mom is." I had enough. I told her to wash her mouth of the bullshit she had been saying at me and my daughter, and I left and went home. I was really shaken up at this point and was still when we got home and my husband noticed. I told him what had happened. He told me that the nurse was really dumb for saying that, but I shouldn't have blown up on her like that. Am I the asshole Reddit? As a nurse, call the office manager and report that nurse. The amount of obscenities I want to use would probably get me banned. But she was beyond unprofessional for every single word of that, and she said it in front of your daughter? I guarantee that is not how we are taught in nursing school. I am so angry on your behalf. But please, report her. Edit. Not the asshole. Not the asshole, but please report this nurse. It's incredibly unprofessional, and she needs to be reprimanded. Who knows what insensitive thing she'll say to someone a lot more vulnerable. She makes my blood boil. I'm so mad on your behalf. Not the asshole. File a formal complaint. You are not at wrong, she's terrible. She stood there in what is supposed to be a position of authority, dressed like a medical professional in front of your child, and was just spitting out her narrow-minded idea and kept doing so. I am livid for you. Not the asshole. Make a formal complaint about the nurse. That is absolutely unacceptable behavior from a healthcare professional. Not the asshole. Honestly, file a complaint with the facility, citing what the nurse said and how it was negatively impacting on your daughter at such a young age. Undermining your place as her mother and parent, both in your eyes and in her still developing mind and worldview. I myself have been a nurse for 10 years, and we receive training on diversity and inclusion as part of our holistic education. The fact that this nurse is just stating facts is quite appalling, and they should never be allowed to work in a role where they have to interface with people with diverse backgrounds or life situations. Hate to think how they'd try to argue with a non-binary parent, patient, but you were born a man. Just stating facts. This person doesn't deserve to be a nurse. Not the asshole. Immediately file a complaint. A pediatric nurse, she never say something like that, especially not in front of the child. Not the asshole, and you need to file a complaint with the practice. This behavior isn't cool. If she had that type of attitude towards adoption, she needs to keep it to herself. Not the asshole, and I would absolutely follow up with the pediatrician, and if that goes nowhere, a complaint to the appropriate nursing board. A nurse with that kind of attitude should not be working in a practice dedicated to childcare, if she should be working, at all, in the field of nursing without a serious attitude adjustment. Am I the asshole for declining to switch seats with a woman and her kid twice? I know there's one of these posted fairly often, but this is a double whammy. I was on a 10-hour flight from US to Europe. I am 6 feet 5 inches and have damaged knees from soccer, so legroom and the ability to get up and walk frequently is a must. I booked an aisle seat in economy plus for the above reasons. Normally I try to get bulkhead seats or business class if reasonable, but this was a last-minute flight for a death in the family. The other 2 passengers in our row of 3 were a woman and her toddler. The toddler was screaming bloody murder in the waiting area and continued to once seated in the middle seat, leaning away from Mom and against me while doing so. I have very sensitive hearing due to ruptured eardrums, so I put in noise-canceling earphones, but those can only do so much when the source of the sound is less than a foot away. A flight attendant took notice and asked me for my drink order prior to takeoff, which I guess shows how visibly uncomfortable I was. Even in Economy Plus there's the chance of the person in front of you reclining their seat, which of course happened after we reaching cruising altitude and my knees were starting to burn. I went to walk, and when I came back the woman asked me if I would switch to the window seat. I said no and explained I'd be getting up repeatedly throughout the flight and didn't want to have to climb over them. The flight was overnight, so I'd be waking them up as well. The same flight attendant caught me on my next walk, said there was a space in business class and asked if I'd like to move up. We were close enough to my seat that the woman heard and asked if they could be upgraded instead. The FA just shrugged, but I said I'd take it. It was an aisle seat and the middle was empty, so the 2 of them could have taken it too. I couldn't refuse the chance to get a bit of sleep. I had a 3-hour train ride and then tram after landing. I'd need to stay awake after 2 hours on the train and then immediately go to a funeral because it was late morning when I arrived at my mom's house. While in line for customs, the woman was a few people behind me. She called me a prick and kept raising her voice to make comments about me to her son like, "That mean lady wouldn't let you have the nice seats." I don't know why it was offered to me first, but am I the asshole? Edit. If you think I've posted this for validation or whatever else, I invite you to get yourself yelled at and called names in a customs hall in a foreign country and see how well you feel afterwards. Not the asshole. You were lucky. They wouldn't upgrade a toddler. The rest of business class would revolt. I don't know why it was offered to me first, but am I the asshole? It was offered to you first, because the flight attendant knew that the mom and toddler were making your flight experience uncomfortable, and decided to move you away from the noise. Plus, she probably knew that moving a screaming toddler into business class would make the people who paid for expensive seats extremely uncomfortable. Mom wasn't entitled to an upgrade, and moving you solved her biggest problems: more room for her toddler and no one to crawl over if they had to get up. Not the asshole, but Mom was for acting entitled. Not the asshole. Who overhears someone getting an upgrade and pipes up requesting they get it instead of the person it was offered to? Not the asshole. It sounds like the FA saw that there was an issue but you were being decent and not complaining and rewarded you for it. Why would they put a toddler and mum in business class unless they paid for it? They wouldn't, because their other paying customers would not be happy. Not your problem. Well done for dealing with the whole situation without being a prick. I don't know why it was offered to me first. I will enlighten you. You were being chill, so the flight attendant took pity on you and offered the seat to you. The lady and her kid were being obnoxious, so they don't deserve squat. Not the asshole. Not the asshole. Screw that lady and her loud-ass kid. She's setting such a bad example for him. Not the asshole. You were offered the seat first. I don't see the problem here. I've flown with my kids and it would have been more hassle to move than to just stay put for her. She's just salty that you didn't let her have her way. Not the asshole. Is it common practice for flight attendants to move disruptive children into business class? I somehow doubt that was even on the table. I rarely fly and my kids are older now, but the only thing I can imagine being more stressful than a transatlantic flight with a toddler is a transatlantic flight sitting with a bunch of people who paid extra for their seats and are suddenly